Any guesses? Susan will let me know if we get any guesses. All right, so we're going to move to the picture. So here's a flight picture. Kind of blurry, I know. So you might see one of these soaring. They're here now. This is a good time of year to see these. Any guesses on what this bird is? I think they're really, really handsome.
So square tail,
Yeah, gray head.
gray head, kind of a white body. It's a
Mhm.
toughie.
I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. This is one that we saw. We were at the on our Ocala wetlands field trip, and this one was perched up in a tree. And from far away, it was the shape of a dove. Notice that short bill. Does anyone have a guess? I'm going to give you a really big clue. So you'll see it soaring with swallowtail kites. So it's kind of related to swallowtail kites. Anyone want to guess? You can unmute
Hey,
yourself.
Terry's got snail or swallow, and Karen says snail kite. Terry's got another guess. Mississippi.
There you go, Terry. It is the
Yep, Mississippi
kite.
kite.
So this is a really handsome bird that if you've never seen one, you definitely want to start looking. So it's a small raptor. It's slender. It has narrow pointed wings. The tail is dark in flight. It has a pale head, a dark eye patch, and dark gray wings. If you look at the map, there's some that nest east of the Mississippi and some that let that nest in the prairies. We're fortunate, even though this map doesn't show them here, we have some nesting pairs in Central Florida. So in east of the Mississippi, they nest in mature low-lying forests with nearby open habitat. So that nearby open habitat could be a pasture, could be sod farm, field. So you often see them soaring over fields like swallowtail kites. They feed on medium-sized and large insects. They feed on frogs, toads, lizards, snakes, small birds, mammals, bats. And unlike swallowtail kites, they can forage on the ground and in shallow water. And some people have occasionally seen them like on a pasture or sod field. They can nest in any size tree. Unlike a kite, swallowtail kites have to be on a high tree. They can be a few feet off the ground to 115 feet. That's really interesting. In the West, the kites nest in colonies, and they've increased in the West, but in the East, they nest solitary. Unlike many raptors nestlings, the nestlings don't show much aggression to each other, and they actually preen each other. And here's a really interesting fact. The nest might be next to or contain a wasp nest, and they believe that's to protect the chicks. And that's a really neat adaptation if I heard one myself. And they do winter in South America. So really cool bird. Now's the time to look for them. They usually are up flying, usually after 10 or 11 or so. So like any sod fields, like Lake Apopka at the end in the sod field area, kind of a good place to look. And sometimes you'll be looking and there'll be nothing, and all of a sudden they just appear. So they're really cool.
And they disappear as quickly.
Yes. So they're quick.
They're quick.
All right. This week in Central Florida Birding with Susan.
All right. This week, okay, it's that time of year. If you're a photographer, if you just love birds, if you just love baby birds, this is a great time to hit all of like the wetlands park, the drive, because we are full with lots of babies. We've got black-necked stilt chicks. The one on the left, we're right beside the drive. I mean, right next to the drive. So you didn't even have to get out of the car to take that picture. Fulvous whistling ducks, actually, that was the same. You didn't have to get out of the car to take that picture. They were right next to the drive. And anhinga chicks. We saw a lot of anhinga chicks, little blue heron chicks being fed. It's really fascinating. They're just really extremely cute. A lot of different baby birds, lots of baby gallinules, baby purples, gray-headed swamp hens. So this is a great time if you want to get pictures of chicks or just look at chicks. They're really just a good time to go out, even though it's a little hot. Also in the Central Florida birding, just a short drive away, We do have a Bahama mockingbird. I did go there the other day. It's at Jetty Park. It's actually kind of bordering on the park, so you don't actually have to pay to get in the park. You can go to, there's a little parking lot by the boat dock, and it kind of hangs on the trees right by the edge between the campground and that boat area. So you can kind of get, if this could be a life bird for a lot of people, it was for me. So a Bahama mockingbird, he's a little bit bigger than a northern, a little browner, some stripes underneath, a nice malar stripe bordering his chin. And he kind of is hanging around with a little girl, northern. So he probably will be there for a while, I'm thinking. Also, if you want to take a good look at a bird that's really hard to see, northern bobwhite. There's been a little family of bobwhites by the Canaveral National Seashore, just past like where you, the entry kiosks, there's like, what would you call that, Kathy? Some little
Like a little
buildings
soda,
there.
like a little soda machine.
And there's a soda machine.
Oh,
And they're just like, this one was just right there in a tree. You heard him calling, we looked, there he was. I think Kathy had seen him the week before, so kind of a real nice to be able to see, kind of a hard bird to see, but kind of getting a little friendlier at this season, so. Very
and
good.
right past there, you'll find scrub jays. So it's kind of a cool thing. if you're
Yes,
out
and
there.
right past there, you'll find the scrub jays. Same area. We also have all of our bird chats on YouTube. So if you've missed anything and you want to kind of review it, or if you want to see it again, I know there's some things I like to watch a couple times over, some of those bird ones that talk about some of the, how to identify some of those wetland birds. So these are all on YouTube, our YouTube channel, and you can kind of look up and kind of go through there. So if you want to look at them again, any information, they're right on YouTube.
All right, now we're going to start our feature presentation. And tonight it's myself and Susan. And we're going to be doing the June Challenge and summer birding. So let's talk about the June Challenge. June Challenge is, I think it's a lot of fun. So last year, Sam Mitchum was the Orange County winner, and he had the second highest number of species list in the state of Florida. He had 129 ABA countable species and 6 non-countable species. And we did have a little celebration, which we'll do again this year. It was a lot of fun. So even if you only participate one day, you know, you're welcome to come out. It's just a nice time just to be with the other birders. And just to let you know right now, Tim Harden, who has been on Bird Chat, he had what, 101 species so far?
So far today.
Oh my gosh. So anyways, we won't talk about how many I have right now. This was our participants from last year, some who are on this call right now. So we plan another little, it'll be July 30th, I believe, that we're going to have a little celebration, and we'll let you know the location that we're going to be at. But it'll be a lot of fun. So here's a little history of the June Challenge. This began in 2004 by Becky Ennis of Alachua, Audubon, as a birding activity to do during the normally slowest month of the year for birding, because the migrants are pretty much gone and a lot of birds are nesting and they're not singing, and so they're really hard to see. And when Becky was a new birder and she was all excited, and she came to June and there's like nothing going on. So she came up with this idea, and it's a really fun idea. And when you do June Challenge, you never know what you're going to see. So Sam saw this last year. He was out somewhere, and lo and behold, here's a barn owl being chased by a red-winged blackbird, which you like never see barn owls. So if you get out there, you see stuff. You definitely do. So why do June Challenge? You still might find a spring migrant. Someone, a young man up in Jacksonville, he found a prairie warbler. That was yesterday. So you never know what you might find. You might find an out of place bird like this gold-billed tern. It will definitely increase your birding skills, because if you're an ear birder like me, it forces you to really learn to look better. You might see an indigo. Last year, we had a lot of trouble finding indigo bunting. So, you know, you're just going to just get you out there looking for stuff. And June Challenge rules is you count birds in one county. Now, if you're really, really enthusiastic and you have lots of time and you want to do multiple counties, you can, but you have to keep them on separate lists. Okay. And you might see a cute little puffy mourning dove like I did last year. Each bird must be seen. So that's the real challenge. You have to see the bird. Many people hear king rails, but to see one, that's hard. Sometimes you get lucky like I did on this particular day that I got that picture. But you have to see the bird. You cannot use bird calls or recordings. And this is a really ethical thing because this is a time of year a lot of birds are nesting. And if you use calls, you're calling them away from their nest and they're going to be subject to predation. So don't use calls. You just have to go out there and see what shows up. Like this Bob White could show up. I think it did one year in June, but you just got to just get out there. This is a friendly competition. So even though we're competing, if you know other people that are doing June Challenge, and you can share that in the chat if you're doing it, we try to share with each other when we find, really unusual things. That's okay. That's what makes it a challenge, even though you want to be at the top, maybe you're sharing so we can all get out and see some cool things. Don't include captive birds. So Lake Eola is a really fun place to go see swans, but swans don't count. They would be the non-ABA countable. So you keep track. And if you don't have a clue on what counts and what doesn't, you can email me. I'll help you with that. And actually, when I point you to the website, they actually have a list. But it's really not. There's a lot of things there's not many things that don't count. But the swans at Lake Eola definitely don't count, nor do chickens. All right. So there is a website this year. It's actually through the Great Florida Birding Trail website, and it's under the subheading of Wings Over Florida. And while you're there, you can look at the Wings Over Florida program. If you've never done it, it's fun. It's a good thing to upload, your list during the summer. But anyways, they have a separate tab for June Challenge that has all these rules and more information than what I've gone over. And it will have a place to upload your list. It's not there yet, but of course it's only June 2nd. So what I do with June Challenge, I still do eBird, but I'm doing eBird with what I'm hearing too. So every day after I've done my birding for the day, I come home and I have a paper checklist, or you can keep a list. And I just write down the first time I've seen a bird. So like if I saw a cardinal yesterday, I don't need to keep writing it down. Now, if I have an eBird list, yeah, I'll count my cardinals, but you only note the first time you saw it. And then you don't need to worry about keeping track of when you've seen it. And the list must be submitted by July 1st to be in the competition. We do for Orange Audubon. We'll talk about that in a minute, I think. Yeah. Here we
And
go.
then Kathy, I just wanted to make mention that you can download a list of the Florida birds
Mhm.
or request a paper list of
Mhm.
the birds that would qualify.
Yeah, they'll send it to you. And I imagine they'll send it out pretty quick because they know that people are trying to do this. And that's really nice. All right. Okay. So for Orange Audubon, we are going to award a trophy to the member who sees the most birds total. So doesn't matter what county you're in. Now it has to be in one county though. Some counties are easier to see more birds in than others. I'll just say that. I'll leave that there. You can figure that out. We will also award a trophy to the top young birder under the age of 18. And young birders don't need to upload theirs to the website. They can just send us the count, just send me the count of how many they've seen. So it's really kind of cool. So if you have any questions about the June Challenge, just let me know. Remember, here's your website that has all the information that you need. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. It's just a fun thing to do. And what I do is I try to beat how many I had last year. So this year's going to be a little hard because I'll be gone for 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But it's still fun. All right. So we are going to now go into the rewards and challenges of summer birding. A lot of people don't bird in the summer in Florida. It is hot, Yes, but you know what? You miss a lot if you don't go out there. And so get out there early, quit early. You'll still see some really cool stuff. All right, so now summer is time for nesting. So we do need to mention some things that are really important. Birds that are nesting are very vulnerable, and it's important that you keep a respectful distance from a nest if you find a nest, which is very possible because if you're out there doing June challenge or you're just birding, you're going to notice where there's adults and young. The young will be calling out, they're hungry, like your kids. I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And so you'll see a lot of activity. So keep a very far distance from that nest. Avoid flushing adults, scaring the young, or doing anything to draw the attention of a predator. If you repeatedly walk, so if you have a nest near where you live or a park you go to all the time, if you continually go the same path to that nest, you're creating a scent and foot trail for the predators. Don't do that. Go different ways. Stay far, far back. Don't cut anything from around the nest, such as branches or leaves, to get a better picture because you're taking away camouflage. You don't want to do that. So if you do this, then you can still enjoy these beautiful nesting birds and they can be safe. All right, and summer is for babies. So isn't that a great picture that Jack took from Laud? And actually, as Susan showed you, we saw chicks about this age last Sunday when we were on the drive. So they're definitely out there. So this time of year, sometimes we find baby birds around where we live. So a fledgling has feathers, okay? They're hopping, they're fluttering around, leave them alone. They've grown, they need to move around, they need to flap their wings, they need to learn to fly. The only exception for this, if there is a cat nearby, just move the bird to a higher place and leave it alone. And it's not true that the parents will abandon it if they smell human scent. That is not true at all. And give them space because, the parent bird might not come if you're around. If it's a nestling that has no feathers, they do need help. Their eyes aren't open. The best thing you can do, find the nest, put the baby back in. Again, the parents are not going to abandon it. If the nest is destroyed, you can contact a rehabilitator through the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission or go on our website and you can get information there because in that case, they would need help. Okay, so Susan's going to talk about wetland birds.
All right, so one of the areas, of course, we have a lot of wetlands for birding, and the summer is a great place to go for the wetland birds. Like we had just shown you, we have these nice chicks are out, the ducks. We can go to the next slide. So we have a lot of the fulvous whistling ducks. If you look hard, you'll see some American coots. We have a few that have not migrated. They are on the wetland drive. I'm not sure, I didn't check listings for the Orlando Wetlands Park, but at Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive, we definitely saw coots the other Sunday when we went. And of course, you'll see fulvous ducks and possibly the little ducklings. So very, very cute. And also you'll see black belly whistling ducks. I think I bet this picture on the left is from the wetlands, Orlando Wetlands, because this guy's nicely perched on a tree, real visible. Those guys are great to watch. The black belly whistling ducks, they are out and about, and you can see them flying around. So one of the things that people come to our area is to see these ducks. Now we also have currently some kind of holdover ducks. We have a few lesser scaup. I'm trying to remember, I think there was a male and 2 females, something like that. If you go to Laud Lakeside and you look out carefully with your binoculars, you can see this lesser scaup or possibly some ringneck ducks. I think the top total was 5. So they appear to be sticking around for the summer, which is different. Usually they migrate out. So something for your June challenge, some ducks that you normally don't see in June, but they are here and they do count. And also don't forget those other woodland birds. We get the tricolor herons are out, snowy egrets, and in some of the parks, wood ducks. Some of them will have chicks and ducklings, so keep an eye on those because those make some great photos to get some of those baby ducks. And limpkins, you can't miss them if they start calling. Sometimes they're not calling though. Lately, I think I've been seeing them more than hearing them, which is interesting. So it could be because some of that nesting. Black crowned night herons, real easy to see at the drive. Great birds to photograph. And green herons, they're out a lot, especially at that wildlife drive. They tend to be out quite a bit right next to the drive, so you can get some great photos of them. Again, anhingas, you can get those. There's also some cormorants that stay over. This is a great picture of feeding, which I think is quite daring, but hey, you know, but these are some great things that you can see. This is a picture from the drive. I think this was last year, but we did see this year, the chicks in the nest. So I'm sure this is still happening if you get the timing right and just happen to catch the adult when they're feeding.
And Susan pointed this out to me yesterday. Notice how the chicks have much less sharp bills than the adult.
Yes, they kind of grow into those pointy bills, so which is very necessary for the feeding. All right, and next, also you can keep an eye out for wood storks, and somebody who might be really hard to find is a yellow-crowned night heron. They have been seen at Loud and at the Wetlands Park, Orlando Wetlands Park, but they're not easy to find. So that's kind of one of your June challenge. We know they're here. That's one of your June challenge birds. So if you can get out and find one of those, it's great.
And notice the bright pink feet on the wood stork for breeding.
Oh, yes. That
Look
is
at that.
also, yeah, during breeding season, they get those pretty pink feet. Okay, least bitterns. This is a great time of year if you want to see least bitterns, if you want to take a great picture. They are out quite a bit. They're next to the drive. I think without trying, how many did we see, Kathy? Seven, something like that. So it's just really a good time to see these little birds. Sometimes that you can't find them. So they're hidden away, but now they're out, they're feeding, they're out pretty much everywhere. They were in the sticks, they're in the all of the vegetation. So all you have to do is see a little gold thing flying by and you look at it and there it is. So. And again, another great picture from Jack Horton of some of the antics. They do have great poses, these guys. They do a lot of acrobatic poses. So really cool birds. Purple gallinules, for a while we weren't seeing them because they were all kind of in the back. Now they're out and about. They've got a few chicks are out. You'll see them a lot more next to the drive. You don't have to look as hard to see them. So keep an eye. They are, again, a really good, a great bird to photograph because of the colors. So with the beautiful purple and the yellow legs. So good time to get out, practice your photography, practice looking closely at those. Again, now we're looking at, here's purple gallinule. This is a good photo because it shows like a different generation of chicks. We've got the smaller chicks at the front, the little black chicks. And then we have a juvenile in the back. He's kind of brown. Usually when you can see him, they do have a little tinge of the purple, but that is the chick. And again, here's another cute picture of a juvenile chick, not a juvenile, but a purple gallinule chick sitting in some of the vegetation. So they're kind of have that great little look to them. Swallowtail kites. Again, if you go over to Mead Gardens, there's a nest there. If you get the right window, you can watch them feeding the chicks. They do have 2 chicks in the nest, and I did do that last week. Take a look and watch them being fed. So it's really kind of nice. Snail kites, you do have to, if you're going to get this for your June challenge, you may have to do a little walking, maybe down into Clay Island, but they are out and about, and juveniles. This picture of a juvenile Kathy just took when she was out there.
Where's that
Marty did.
county though?
Oh, that is Lake County. So you have to do Lake County. Ooh, so for Orange County,
There's some out there, but we don't know where. Somewhere on the north shore.
yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
on the drive, or you can go to the 50 boat ramp. I've seen them sometimes too.
Mhm. They're
Yeah.
a challenge bird.
They
in
are a
Orange County.
challenge bird for Orange County, a little bit easier for Lake. Marty did mention that with Alex coming, perhaps a few will be blown in. So I'm assuming that's the name of this tropical storm that's coming.
Oh, it's Alex? Oh my goodness.
I just
That's
knew it was a
true.
storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
That's-
right, so maybe we'll see, who knows, for June challenge, keep an eye, we might get some real interesting things
You
going
get
on.
a frigate bird, you know? You
Frigate
could.
bird, they have been
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
yes. So, and this is a great picture of swallowtail kites. So one of the joys of summer birding, when the kites kind of, a lot of times they will get in big groups and to go to do their migration. And I have seen like 200 of them flying like this in the back of the drive. I did not see them last year. And I don't know if it's one of those, you just have to hit the timing right or what, but it's just amazing to see this great quantity of the swallowtail kites. So, and Terry Breeze did mention that they had snail kites at Newton Park last year, but so far not this year.
Yeah.
So,
We saw them in the winter time. I saw one.
yeah.
And this congregation of the swallowtail kites won't be until like mid to late July.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but this is one of the great things about summer birding. You don't get to see that in the winter. So. All right. And another bird that we have, the birds that have migrated in, but we also have some of our resident birds, and they all seem to be more visible right now. And those are the black-necked stilts. You might see that black and white bird with those bright pink legs kind of straight up behind him. And that's the stilts flying around. We did see quite a few of them flying around when we went at the Wildlife Drive. And then here's a good picture of different phases. So the one in the front, you can see it's a younger chick. It doesn't quite have that dark color. So some of the younger ones aren't quite as black. And their legs aren't quite as pink. I think there's like 3 juveniles in this picture, but they are still just as cute. So swallows, barn swallows are easier to see right now in the winter. Well, we don't really, or in the summer, we don't really have them in the winter, but this is a good bird for your June challenge. And as long as you're going where you know they have a nest, like at the Wildlife Drive, they do have a few areas where they have nests under some of those bridges. So you can kind of get your barn swallow in for your count for June. Other swallows that we can see in the summer is a rough-winged swallow, the cliff swallows, and a bank swallow. The bank swallows, there's a couple of them currently at the Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive. With the barn swallows, you have to look close because they're a little bit smaller. They have that little brown collar and a little bit of like a brown necktie in the front or a necklace, but you do have to look through all those swallows to find it. Okay, here's a bird that's a challenge bird. He's here all year round, but come June, common yellowthroat, you got to look really hard for this bird. They're on nests, they're not up and about as much, so it's going to be really hard to find them. Northern Parulas on the right, those are, you hear them all the time. You don't have to play any calls, you just have to find them, but sometimes they can be a real challenge. I think I had a nemesis bird 2 years ago, June challenge, that was the Parula, because man, every time I looked, I couldn't find it. So, but those are out and about too. Prothonotary warblers, we do have them along the rivers. Wekiva River is one. So you can see if you like to take, you do have to take a little bit of effort. It's kind of a fun thing to do in the summer, those go kayaking or canoeing down the Wekiva. Make sure you check to see, what the call is, so that if you hear it, you can start looking. But we have seen it a couple times along the river. Great little bird, really pretty bird. So it's a good place to get that June challenge bird. And the only time that we have them really here all year is the summer. So. And then Kathy's going to talk about the upland birds.
Okay, so this is where you definitely want to go out early in the morning because you're not by the water. And these are some of the birds you might see. Now, some of these are in like habitats that are close to the water, like these orchard orioles. So orchard orioles tend to be like in trees that are kind of near water, like on the wildlife drive. And right now they're kind of hard to find because they're not right near the road. You actually really need to take a bike out to find them at this point, unless they move around, which they might. But they are beautiful, and the male just has a beautiful song. And this is a young male, and you might see this and might think it's a hooded oriole from out west. So they look kind of similar. Cool bird. And then in the uplands, there's definitely possibilities of ruby-throated hummingbirds. This was a nest from a few years ago. You have to be super lucky to find a nest, but remember to keep distance and really don't share the location with others. And blue-gray gnatcatchers could be nesting. Actually, this is a photo I took last year. It was one of those situations where we saw the gnatcatchers flying around a lot and then saw them fly to the nest and feed babies. So that's how we were able to see it, because the nest was just a tiny bit bigger than a hummingbird nest. It's really small. So that's a cool thing to see. All right, another bird that breeds here but is not very common, and I'm still looking for one, is the eastern kingbird. So they are around, but you just have to keep looking. Beautiful, handsome bird. And then the brown thrasher. The thrashers are here. They're a lot more secretive than the northern mockingbird. They're very similar looking. Their juveniles look very similar, but the brown thrasher to me doesn't seem to like sit out as much as a northern mockingbird singing. So it takes a little more effort to find those. And then a really cool bird is a loggerhead shrike. So this is one that you want to look, they often will sit on a power line or a barbed wire fence, and they do hunt things like that's like a little tiny snake that has there. And or they'll hunt, grasshoppers and things like that, or lizards, and they'll actually impale them. They like to impale them on a barbed wire fence or a thorn bush or something like that. And a good place right now to see them is near the wildlife drive. Sometimes they actually are on the wires over there. We've seen them near the bike parking too. So they're really, really cool. And then we have our notorious pine warbler, which can be all different shades of brown or yellow. They can be really bright yellow. They can be dull gray. And this was actually a fledgling that I saw last year. And I saw it because they were real actively calling the parents and wanting to be fed. So I just sat and watched them and just really just got to see them very close, because I stayed still and I just kind of let them be. But they're really nice. And then yellow-throated vireo, which was one of my nemesis last year. But guess what? I saw one today. I didn't expect it. And it wasn't calling. We were just looking at birds way up high in the tree, looking for parulas and stuff. And this guy showed up. So you just never know. And it never called, because it's a very distinct call. And, but you never know. So that's a cool one to look for. And then the white-eyed vireo can be really hard because you hear these a lot. And in April, they were out singing. Not hard to find, but June, they don't move around a lot in the trees. One summer I was lucky enough, actually someone told me about this one particular nest. It was the coolest nest because like a little pouch. And I was got a very respectful distance away and was able to watch the adult come in and feed the chicks, but got eaten up by mosquitoes. So cool bird. And then of course we have the chimney swifts. So they're here in the summer, they're breeding. And they will leave us in the fall. So now's a great time to see them. Then of course, we have the eastern bluebirds, which live here year round. But you'll probably see some young ones and they have the speckled breast and everything. And the northern parula is a breeder here. So you will take a look now today, because we came across some with fledglings and the fledglings were very hungry. We were able to see them. Of course, there's lots of mosquitoes around. The birds were eating the mosquitoes and we were getting eaten up. So we watched them for a little while and then moved on. And so if you go to a place like, Rock Springs Reserve, you can maybe see some Florida scrub jays for Orange County. But just kind of go early, because in the scrub, it gets really hot because it's white sand and it reflects. And of course, we definitely never use recordings with scrub jays because they are endangered and that is illegal. But if they're out there, you'll see them. And the brown-headed nuthatch, really cute. They like to be in the sandhill. And actually got to see some of those today too. Really cute. Some somewhat more challenging birds this time of year. There are white-winged doves around. They're bigger than a mourning dove. And that was one of our nemesis birds last year. This year, they're a little easier. If around the pump house of the wildlife drive, there seems to be some around there. And if you drive lakeside, if you just go really slow and you keep watching, you'll see them fly and you'll see that white stripe on their wing as they're flying. Eastern towhees can be kind of secretive this time of year. They like to nest in bushes, and sometimes they don't sit out. So they can be kind of hard. And you can find those at the wildlife drive as well as places like Hal Scott, Tosahatchee, Wakaiwa. And the Eurasian collar doves, they're not a native, but they're established here. So I believe they do count. I have to double check that one, but they're hard to find nowadays. So that's another challenge one. Bachman's sparrow, if you go to any pine woods like Hal Scott, Tosahatchee, or Wakaiva, they're singing right now. So a little easier to find. Just listen for the singing and you just have to scan, because they definitely blend in with the pine trees, but they're really cool. And that's an immature Bachman sparrow that I saw on June Challenge last year. It is really cute. And then summer tanagers, they breed here in the same locations that I just mentioned. And it's a great time to see them. They can be really difficult, even though the male is bright red and the females are yellow. They just hold still, and sometimes they'll just kind of be sitting behind a pine cone, and they're hard to find even when they're singing. So that's kind of a challenge bird to me. And then we have the different woodpeckers. So the hardest one there is the hairy woodpecker. They're bigger than a downy. Notice the bill is longer, and they're really hard. The pileated or pileated woodpecker, they're fun to find. Now's a good time of year because they should be nesting. And then the red-headed woodpecker, the same place you're going to find the Bachman sparrow and the summer tanager, you're going to probably find these. And they're really handsome. And then we have our great crested flycatchers. Most neighborhoods have these. So sometimes they're hard to find because they'll sit in the top of the tree, but behind vegetation. So it's one of those birds if you hear one, you have a safe place you can stand, just wait, because eventually it's going to fly out and then you'll see it. Other things are not so easy, like the eastern screech owl, really tough. But sometimes you get lucky. And then we have our birds that are blue that look somewhat similar. There's some differences. So we have the blue grosbeak on the left and we have the indigo bunting on the right. Um, and we're fortunate right now, there's kind of a cooperative blue grosbeak at the wildlife drive. And it's either hanging around the bicycle parking and just learn the call. Don't play it, but learn its song. And you'll hear it. And then you have to just start scanning the tree line where you're hearing it. And actually, the last 2 times I've seen it, it's been on the wire. And it'll be at the parking lot and then it'll go over by near the gate. And good luck. Now, indigo bunting. Don't know where there's one right now. So I'm still looking. But we had one in that same area last year. And then we have other surprises. So the one on the left was a surprise I saw yesterday. Great horned owl. Just was there. Then one looking for it, one calling. And then the red-tailed hawk. Sometimes they can be a little hard to find, but safely if you're a passenger and you're driving a lot of the 429, there's several that hang around different places there. If you're not driving, take a look or check the birds as they're up soaring, as you'll see is red tail, and they're so handsome. Tough bird here, Costa caracara. Not many places in Orange County. If you're doing a different county like Osceola, it'd be a little easier because you have 3 lakes and there's a pretty good population down there, but there's a few that come around the wetlands, Orlando wetlands. Sometimes they're on Highway 50. Sometimes they're at the Highway 50 boat ramp. So that's a hard one. It took us a while to find that one last year. And then we have other really hard ones like the short-tailed hawk. So they're seen around, they breed here. There's 2 morphs. We have the dark and the light morph. People have seen them at the wildlife drive. People have seen them at the wetlands park. We've seen them at Oakland Nature Preserve. So on that survey, we'll be looking, but unless you're in the right place at the right time, you might not see one. And definitely check the when you get a kettle of vultures, because that's part of what they do is they hide in the kettle of vultures. The dark morph looks like a black vulture if you look real quick, and then they'll hide up there and then they'll see a bird and they'll swoop out and they'll fly after it. So that's one that you look at the behavior. And then these are challenging too. The common nighthawk is more about timing. You see them more at dusk and at dawn. And so you have to kind of know where they hang out. I know that they've been seen near the wildlife drive. Of course, the wildlife drive is closed, during the week, and it's closed. The gate opens at 7 a.m. and closes at 3, and you have to be out by 5. But you can park and walk in. And also Hal Scott was a good place to see those. Wekiva is a good place to see those. Use bug repellent though, because it's the time of day the mosquitoes are really out. And Chuck Will's widow can find where you hear them, but to see one, you have to be super lucky. And that's one that Sam saw because it was perched. So, and I did have one in my neighborhood last year. I don't think it was in June. I think it was actually in July, that was sleeping on a branch, and the songbirds were kind of going crazy. And that's how I found it. So you never know. You just got to get out there and just look closely because you'll find stuff. So does anyone have questions? And Susan's gonna read the questions, and you can also unmute yourself too.
Yeah, if you need any, excuse me, ideas on where to bird, or if you just want to comment on things that you've seen in June that's special, let us know. Give us a little note in the chat.
Yeah. And if anyone started June challenge and you have something exciting you've seen so far.
Okay, Terry wants to know if peafowl will count.
I don't think so. So I have to go back and look at all these again. I don't, even though, because they're more people bring them in, and I don't think they're exactly established wild breeding populations. So you think about things like house sparrows are definitely, those are exotics. They're not native here, but they breed and they're, oh, to find one of those, just go to to your Lowe's or Home Depot because they'll be in the garden center along with house finches. But yeah, I don't think they count.
And Florida can be a little bit stickier than actually the ABA. Is that correct, Kathy?
That's for the Wings Over Florida.
Oh, that's for the Wings
But
Over
for June
Florida.
Challenge,
Okay.
they do count them, but I guess what happens if there's a tie, then whoever ever has the most ABA countable would be ahead of the person that they had the same number, but one person had more that were ABA accountable. That's where it matters. But yeah, I don't think they count, but just, you can email me and I'll look into it.
Okay, and Marty's pointing out, which is a good point that we didn't mention, that pitching, which is also like playing a call, is not allowed.
Absolutely.
So
Don't.
there's no pitching, no
No
playing
making
calls.
sounds. You just
You
see
can
what you get.
listen,
Oh, yeah,
but you just can't
right.
play or,
Don't make any
Yes.
sounds to attract the birds in. And I mean, and now the other thing is if you do have a feeder, of course, you can count the birds that come to your feeder. That's okay. Anybody else have any questions about any of the birds?
Okay, Anna's saying she started June Challenge yesterday, but in Seminole County.
Oh,
And there's
good.
not as many high bird spots. And I think that is correct.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Seminole's challenging, but it's good. But I mean, when the June Challenge Florida one, they recognize you by county. And Seminole is one of the harder counties because it just doesn't get the variety, of some other counties.
of course, you never know what
But
you
Stuff
can
shows up,
find.
like Seminole County had the yellow-headed blackbird, so
Yep.
stuff does show
So
up.
Terry Bree says he started June 1st. He's up to 27.
That's
Woo,
great.
that is good.
That's really good. And it's, and again, you basically, most people only bird in the morning or later in the day because
Mhm.
it does get hot. At the beginning of, and here's another strategy we didn't talk about. You hit it really hard the very first few days of June because we still could have a few migrants. The weather's a little bit nicer. And then the last few days of June, you hit it really hard if you can, because that's when we might have early migrants coming back. But of course, when we have weather events like we might be having the next few days, where winds are coming from off the ocean, stuff could definitely show up. So you definitely want to just hit your local hot spots and just be looking for stuff that's out of place, because that definitely could happen.
Yeah, and Anne says she's doing it, but she's not out to win it, but just doing it for fun, which is true. That's kind of what I'm doing too. Plus, I'm going to be gone a week, so
It
but
is
it's still
fun.
great.
And it's fun just to watch, like the fledgling birds and seeing birds doing different behavior than maybe you see them doing other times of year. That it is fun, and it definitely makes you a better birder because it makes you slow down. This
And
kind
then Anne also mentioned that she's following Lori L in the Seminole too, and that is another good strategy is watch
Yes.
those eBird lists and see what
Yes.
people are finding. So
right. So you check eBird the day, from the day before and see where people have seen stuff. That's definitely a good strategy.
mhm.
Yes.
Terry said he's also trying to best his first year count. And what was that, Terry? I want to say it was like 99. 99, I remembered. Okay,
99,
that was
so you gotta
good
get to
count
that.
too.
100 is hard. 100
Yeah,
is
it is
really
hard.
hard. So yeah, that's good. If you get that's high, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's fun. And it's fun. You sometimes find new places to go. And if it's somewhere that no one's birding, there could be stuff that people just haven't found.
Yeah, you never know because look at that Bahama mockingbird. Now, I'm not going to say we're going to find a Bahama mockingbird here, but someone was out just, doing the campground at Jetty Park and noticed this bird. And, so specialty birds are out there. So
Mhm.
this is kind of a nice thing to get out and look around and you never know what you can find. Might be kind of fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm glad that we have a lot of interest. Like I said,
Mhm.
it's not just about the competition. It's about learning and having fun and it's
Getting out of the house, like Marty said.
yeah, getting out of the house because you know you can just get stuck in the
Yeah.
house and go with friends because you know
Oh,
we
yeah.
help each other when we go out there and we look for things. And again, we are going to have, we're hoping, there's no guarantee, but we're hoping to do our kickoff trip on the 5th. We changed the date because Saturday looks like a total washout, just based on what the Weather Channel is going to say. So we're moving the survey. I'm going to go back to the beginning here.
And Anne had mentioned that she had 15 birds in her backyard and pond yesterday, which is nice.
That's
So
very good.
that is
Yeah.
good.
So let me put this date back up. So if you were planning to go to the June Challenge kickoff trip, we're moving it to Sunday, but Saturday we'll make a decision if we're gonna actually do it, or perhaps maybe even move it to Lake Apopka, depending on the rain chances. Because we want it to be an enjoyable experience and not
Mhm.
getting soaking wet. That's no fun for anybody. And therefore, the Oakland survey is the 26th, but that's still within June. And Oakland's a really good place for flyovers because it's close enough to Lake Apopka. So that could be a good time to hopefully see stuff. And of course, our Wekiva survey on the 18th could be a good time if you haven't, and the wetland survey too on the 18th. If this gets washed out, you can get up early and help Jeffrey. Jeffrey's a really good birder and
Mhm.
he can help you find things. And of course, the Wekiva survey too, you can get those pine woods specialties. So these are just opportunities. And go out there and just see what you can find and
Yep, have fun.
have fun. And it's a good time to practice your photography skills because you get those young birds and birds in different plumages and maybe you're not such rush to see so many species. So you take your time to really get some good photos. So any last minute questions, comments?
Oh, doesn't look like it. So we appreciate everybody for coming. We hope you get out and bird. It's summer. It's a tough time to bird. Go with a friend. We have some great memories of going out in the rain. So,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
right.
Kayaking in the rain. It's like one of my best memories of
Yeah,
bird
finding the Pathonetary warbler in
challenge.
the rainstorm on the Wekiva.
Yes,
That was fun.
yes, that's fun. So,
So yeah, you get out there and just see and again, we'll have a little celebration on the 30th of July. So we're waiting a month just because we have other events and stuff. So it gives us time to get it all together and just have fun and celebrate.
yeah,
If you have any questions, you can email me, if you have any questions about this.
right. And
Okay.
keep checking the website. I'm not sure when they're going to bring that, have it up to
Yeah.
for putting entries in, but it'll be soon. So
Yeah, it'll be
that
soon.
is that great Florida Birding Trail website that they have. So
We're happy that they're hosting it this year.
yeah, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
All right. Any last
Thank
minute questions?
you, Kathy and Susan.
You're
Great
welcome.
job.
All right,
all
everybody.
right.